Imagine you are 19 years old and absolutely certain that you are a genius. You aren't just an average student. You already earn more money than your teachers. You trade the stock market with the coldness of a veteran. And your confidence is so high that you tell your friends Harvard is just a bureaucratic formality on your way to the top. You travel to the admission interview with your chest puffed out, sure that the world is at your feet. But in just 10 minutes, your house of cards collapses. The interviewer looks at you and, with institutional disdain, decrees, "Forget it. You don't have the Harvard profile." For most elite youth, this would be the end of a dream, an indelible stain on their resume. For Warren Buffett, this was the greatest stroke of luck of his life. Today, we dive into the forgotten story of how the man who now commands an empire of hundreds of billions of dollars was humiliated and rejected by the most prestigious institution in the world. We will understand why the traditional educational system failed miserably to see the greatest genius of Wall Street, and how this brutal rejection was the necessary fuel for him to build the greatest financial empire in human history. Before we explore the details of this disastrous interview, I want to ask you a sincere question. Have you ever received a no that felt like the end of the world? A job denied? A promotion that didn't come? Or a project that failed? What did you do with that no? Warren Buffett used rejection as a high-precision compass. If you want to learn how to transform your greatest failures into billionaire assets, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, we decode the mind of the Oracle of Omaha, so you can apply these lessons to your own journey of growth. In 1950, Warren Buffett was not the charismatic icon we know today. He was a skinny, introspective, and extremely ambitious young man from Omaha, Nebraska. But make no mistake, he was already a financial shark in the making. At age 11, while other children played, he bought his first stock. At 14, he used the money accumulated from his newspaper delivery routes to buy a 40-acre farm. While his peers thought about parties and sports, Buffett spent his nights reading company manuals and memorizing compound interest tables. This precocity created a confidence in him that many mistook for arrogance. He firmly believed that Harvard University was the only place worthy of his intelligence. He desired the Ivy League seal, the social prestige that in theory would open every locked door on Wall Street. Buffett traveled to the interview in Chicago with the absolute conviction that he would be accepted in minutes. He thought his numbers and practical knowledge, which already surpassed that of many professionals, would be enough to impress the elite academics. He wasn't just looking for an education. He was seeking validation. The interview was an epic disaster of historical proportions. The Harvard evaluator was not at all interested in knowing how many newspaper routes Buffett had managed or his phenomenal ability to calculate dividend yields in his head. Harvard, at that time, sought molded leaders within a strict pattern of social behavior, refined oratory, and a posture that exuded classic, polished leadership. Buffett, with his awkward manner, his obsessive passion for numbers that bordered on nervousness, and his total lack of social polish by New England elite standards, was discarded almost instantaneously. The interviewer saw in him a finance nerd without executive leadership potential. "Forget it, you're not going to Harvard," were the words that echoed like thunder in Warren's mind as he headed home. The emotional impact was devastating. He felt he had disappointed his father and that his bright future had been canceled before it even began. He saw himself as a failure at 19. But here lies Buffett's first great lesson. Real success doesn't depend on where you start, but on how quickly you can recalculate the route after a head-on collision with reality. After the initial shock of rejection, Buffett did not allow himself to sink into self-pity for long. He went back to his books. It was during this period of searching that he discovered something that would change the course of financial history. Benjamin Graham and David Dodd, the authors of Security Analysis, the Holy Bible of Investing, were teaching at Columbia University in New York. In a bold move, he wrote a letter to Dodd saying, "I read your book and thought you were dead. Now that I've found out you are alive and teaching at Columbia, I would really like to go there." If Buffett had been accepted into Harvard, he would have been indoctrinated with conventional economic theories and likely would have become just another high-ranking executive in a Fortune 500 corporation. But because of Harvard's no, he ended up at the feet of Benjamin Graham. It was at Columbia that Buffett learned the fundamental difference between price and value, and the vital importance of the margin of safety. Harvard's rejection was the necessary filter to put him in the only place in the world where his genius could be polished the right way. Harvard failed because it sought conformity, not disruption. The traditional educational system is often designed to create excellent gears for existing machines, but fails miserably to identify the individuals who are going to build their own machines. They saw in Buffett a strange young man who talked too much about stocks and too little about the social conventions of the elite. They failed to see that this young man was about to redefine the very nature of modern capitalism. Buffett teaches that often the institutions or people who reject us are actually providing us with an invaluable service. They are pushing us out of a comfortable but mediocre path and forcing us to seek masters and environments that truly resonate with our unique purpose. If you are facing a closed door today, stop trying to kick it down. Ask yourself if there is an open window in a place much more aligned with who you really are. The Harvard rejection did something fundamental for Buffett's mind. It eliminated his need for external academic validation. From then on, he stopped trying to fit into patterns and began to rely exclusively on his data analysis and his own logic. He developed what he calls the inner scorecard, while most people live trying to please an external scorecard. Seeking prestigious degrees, luxury cars, and social approval, Buffett learned early on that the only judgment that matters is your own, based on your results and integrity. This detachment from the elite's opinion was what allowed him to buy stocks when everyone else was selling and sell when everyone else was euphoric. Rejection was the baptism of fire that made him emotionally immune to the Wall Street herd. Decades later, Warren Buffett didn't need a piece of paper from Harvard to prove his competence. He transformed a failing textile mill, Berkshire Hathaway, into the largest investment holding company on the planet. The impact was so great that those who were accepted into Harvard in the same class as Buffett ended up, in many cases, working for companies that Buffett now owned, or managing funds that desperately tried to copy his strategy. Buffett's true victory wasn't proving Harvard wrong through words, but through an accumulated net worth that defies logic. He proved that practical intelligence, stable temperament, and value philosophy beat an academic resume in any long-term scenario. Today, the irony is complete. The man who was considered unfit for Harvard's classrooms is the most important case study inside those very same classrooms. What does Harvard's no teach you as you try to invest or undertake a venture? First, the concept of opportunity cost. If Buffett had spent years trying to mold himself into what Harvard wanted, he would have missed the golden years of practical learning with Graham. Second, focus on your circle of competence. Buffett knew he was good at numbers, not social politics. He doubled down on what he was good at instead of trying to fix what the university thought he lacked. In the world of investing, you will receive no's all the time. The market will tell you your strategy is wrong, that you are crazy, or that you are missing the next big tech opportunity. If you don't have the mental resilience Buffett developed by being rejected at 19, you will abandon your plans at the first moment of pressure. Rejection cleanses the ego and prepares the investor for the volatility of life. Warren Buffett often looks back and cites the Harvard rejection as the most important event of his youth. He holds no grudge. He holds deep gratitude for that interviewer in Chicago who said no. He understands that life is a succession of random events that we have the power to transform into an epic destiny through our reactions. The story of Buffett and Harvard is a powerful reminder to us all. Never, under any circumstances, let an institution, a boss, or a critic define your ceiling. Your real value is determined by the assets you build, the wisdom you protect, and your ability to keep walking when the world says you don't belong to the elite group. Harvard lost the chance to have the greatest investor in history in its alumni records. But Buffett won the freedom to build the world on his own terms. Rejection is not the final point. It is just a detour sign to a better road. If Warren Buffett had accepted that no as a definition of his ability, Berkshire Hathaway would be just a forgotten name in a textile history book. If you learn today that yesterday's failure can be the foundation of tomorrow's empire, leave a like and comment. I don't accept other people's ceilings. Subscribe to continue mastering the psychology of money with lessons from the Oracle of Omaha. Remember, the market doesn't pay for your degree. It pays for your vision. Until the next story of value.